Hey, Hugh Taylor here, coming to you from my messy home office with my second public relations tips and tricks video, part two, nailing the media hook, or maybe I was actually going to call it baiting the media hook, but we'll see how suitable that will be as we go along. So here's the question. What's the problem? Can you just call up a reporter and have them be fascinated by your story? The answer is usually no. Unfortunately, reporters are inundated with media pitches. They're just absolutely flooded with inquiries from people like me, and they honestly don't like it. They get very irritated by it. They don't care about your story unless you make them care, or at the very least, get them interested in learning more. This is what you need a media hook for. You have to hook them in the same way that you hook a fish when you're going fishing. So what is a media hook? Public relations people talk about a media hook. What they mean is some kind of tantalizing idea, like a suggestion to the reporter that makes them want to know more. And what it really can be is like an approximation of a catchy headline. The headline that's going to get people interested in reading the story. The reporter is thinking, what's going to get people interested in reading my story? So if you can give them that idea when you reach out to them, you might get them on the hook, so to speak. And it is a sales process. This is something I've tried to explain to a lot of my clients. You're selling something. It is a sales process. So the hook is something, if you're involved in sales, you might know it as an opener. What is a sales opener? An opener is a statement that a salesperson makes to open a sales conversation. And for example, if you go into a car dealership, a car salesperson will say something like, will ask you something like, are you interested in good mileage? Or, do you like luxury cars? Something specific. They don't say, do you want to buy a car today? Because most people will say no. But if they say, are you interested in good mileage? Then most people will say, oh yeah, I am. And that what you've opened, the salesperson has opened the conversation and they've got you on the hook if you're interested in a car with good mileage. Now, if you say, no, I'm not interested in a car with good mileage, you've also opened the sales conversation because the salesperson can say, oh, well, let me show you our, bigger models or whatever. One way or another, you're in that conversation with the salesperson. And that's what you have to do in public relations. And that's what my job is. My job is to make your story into a hook that at least gets the reporter interested in hearing more about it. So here's my tip. You really have to understand what the reporter needs. The reporter needs you. This is the truth. The reporter needs you. The reporter needs sources. The reporter needs stories. But they don't necessarily need you. You specifically. You have to show them why you're interesting to them. And so, like a good salesperson, you have to go with what's in it for them. Like if you go into a car dealership, the salesperson doesn't say, hey, you know what? I really need to make a commission today. How you doing? The salesperson says basically, what kind of car do you want? The salesperson, a good salesperson leads with what's in it for the customer, not what's in it for him. So what does a reporter need? A reporter needs a great story. Okay? What is a great story? A great story for a reporter is one that their editor will like. This is something that a lot of my clients don't understand. The reporter works to some extent for the editor. The editor decides what that reporter will be writing on a given day. So the reporter has to sell the story to her editor. So you're selling a story to someone who has to turn around and sell it to someone else. So you have to give them the tools. You have to give them the sales pitch, essentially. Because the editor is thinking, I want to get a big audience to help this media outlet sell advertising. That's the business they're in. You have to have a story that will be interesting enough to get the audience of that publication to read it or tune in or whatever. And at the same time, the reporter has a parallel set of needs. This is very critical to understand. The reporter has a career. The reporter has interests. The reporter may have gone to journalism school, may have a serious ambitions in life. Does your story speak to those ambitions? Can you make the reporter look good? Can you help the reporter get a Pulitzer Prize? Can you help the reporter build her reputation professionally? So when a reporter is looking at your pitch, she's thinking, is this story going to elevate my profile? And that doesn't mean that you have to be presenting them with the next, Watergate scandal. It means that you have to do something that's in their specific line of work. So, for example, if you're talking to a reporter who covers food and dining, do you have something that's really, really fascinating in the food and dining category? That's what they're going to be interested in. So that's the challenge. So that's the tip. So the trick is be the reporter. This is the trick I do. And in a sales context, which you're basically in here, it's sort of like think like the customer. What's on the reporter's mind? We just talked about a few things. What's their ambition? They need to get their editor interested in a story. They want to enjoy their job. They don't want to write about stuff that's boring. But from a day-to-day basis, they're very, very busy. Reporters are busy. They're often under a lot of deadlines. They don't get paid very well. It's in some ways not a great job. And people do it. They find it interesting, but they're busy. And the truth is they get a lot of media pitches, especially now. And I'll just digress for one moment to talk about how public relations has changed. 20 years ago, public relations was, telephone based. People like me would call reporters if they had a relationship with them, say, I want to tell you a story. Now it's become sort of like email marketing. The reporters might get 100 pitches a day. It's almost like overwhelming, and they get irritated by it. They get too many pitches. So like email marketing, you have about 2 seconds for your pitch. The reporter's finger is on the delete button. They are eager to get rid of what you're sending them. So the challenge for you, now that we've thought like the reporter, let's go back to you. What's going to break through the clutter? How can I interest the reporter in less than 2 seconds? And my suggestion is, this is my other little tip here, think like iPhone preview. This is the reality of public relations today. And it's a difficult reality, but it's also an opportunity. The reality of today's public relations pitch is you have reporters looking at smartphone screens, at email previews, at pitches. You have about 55 characters to get them interested in reading your pitch. If you can't get it into that length, you've probably lost them. But that's also an opportunity, because what's happened is that reporters are looking at their phones all the time. It used to be you could only pitch reporters like, Tuesday to Thursday between, 9 to 4 business hours. That's no longer true. Reporters are looking at their phones all the time, round the clock, 7 days a week. So there's more opportunity, but it's also more challenging because there's more competition. So I want to show you 2 examples of how we took a press release headline and turned it into a hook. So this is, my team came up with both of these, but I just want to share with you how this works. So the headline was, there's going to be a dance performance in honor of Juneteenth, which is a holiday in the African American community. So the press release headline is 410 line dancers hosting Texas Jam Soul Line Dance Conference June 17th to 19th. That's a kind of factual headline for a press release that reporters like. They want to know what is the story? What is the practical story? Event includes free community health fair June 18th. Okay, that's all great, but that headline is too wordy and not interesting enough to be a hook. So the hook for the email is underneath meaning this is the email subject line for the media pitch. Dance company hosting party with a purpose, Juneteenth weekend. And even if they don't see weekend, this party with a purpose, Juneteenth. So we've got a couple elements here Juneteenth is hopefully, if we've done our targeting correctly, we're going to find a reporter who covers Juneteenth, which has to do with African American community, history, that sort of thing, celebrations. Party with a Purpose is saying, that's hopefully if the reporter covers events in this category, they're like, oh, Party with a Purpose, that sounds interesting. And Dance Company. So this conveys what it is, but also why it may be interesting. And I will tell you this pitch worked. We got several articles written about this event for local media that covered this category. Here's another one. This was a kind of an interesting challenge. We had, again, this kind of factual announcement that a laboratory that develops technology had certified an invention of theirs, which was an aerotoxic detection solution, which basically, and it's a little bit weird, but that they have this, but the airplanes need a device to detect if someone has released poison gas into the airplane. It's kind of scary. But I guess it's a safety issue. So here's this kind of technical factual announcement. And then all this very wordy, world's first volatile, semi-volatile organophosphate, too many words, right? But it's important for the reporters who cover aviation want to know all this information. But this is too much information for them for the hook. You're going to lose them if you try and put this. So what we put into the hook was world's first nerve agent detector certified for aviation industry. And this probably could have even been a little more succinct. But one thing which we found in the story was, this world's first is an important factor in a hook. If something's the first, then you're already getting people interested. It's news. And then nerve agent detector, that's going to get people's attention because that's dangerous. Nerve agent. And then certified for aviation industry. So this was a successful hook as well. So the idea, I just wanted to show you how you could take a sort of basic story and turn it into a hook. And as you can see, or maybe think here, this could be a headline. That could be a newspaper headline. This is not a newspaper headline. That's a press release headline that's conveying the facts of the story. So those are some thoughts on and some tips and tricks on media hooks, how to nail it, how to bait the hook. If you want to learn a little more about this process, we encourage you to look at our free ebook. You can download it in the link below, Stop Being Invisible, the ABCs of Pitching and PR, and it contains examples. And more broadly, we can help you with this. We encourage you to visit us at commsfactory.net. Click on the link below. Thank you for being with us today, and I wish you the best of luck in baiting your media hooks.